Hello, everybody. This is our hand building project, the carved hump bowl. In this one, we are going to be taking a plaster mold as a way of creating our form that you'll be making this large slab from our slab roller. You drape it over top of this, or depending on the technique that we end up doing that year, you just use that mold as kind of your way of shaping your clay. Once that mold is on there, we'll have to make some feet for there. So I'll show you how to do that in this project. And that's just kind of the beginning part of this one. Because a lot of times with the pottery part, we'll focus more on the form. This one, form's important, but it's the decorative side of this that we need to kind of focus on. Because once you have that form, we'll take it off, we flip it over, and then you start carving a design out of that center piece. We use something called underglazes to be able to kind of color it. So we'll get into that later. But right now, I just want to kind of talk about when you add designs and you carve into them. I do want this to kind of tell a story in a sense, whether it's personal, whether it's fictional or non-fictional. It kind of depends on how you want to kind of run with it. So that's why I want you to watch this video called Geographic Journey. Flo Yeppa tells the story of her pottery. The piece she talks about is more of her husband's in this case, but it really gets into her culture and how symbolizations kind of play a huge part in her pottery and her husband's pottery. And it can be very abstract, but as she discusses it and talks about it, you can see kind of the depth, that it kind of gets into it. The next one down here is just a demonstration in terms of how another school district kind of does theirs. I'll have a demonstration for ours as well, but they're pretty similar. They have a couple tools that we don't use, but it's for the most part it's pretty darn close. So I'm gonna have you watch that and then just write down the 5 steps on how to make this type of project, because it's very, very similar when we kind of do that. So going down here, project ideas, interest and culture. We got to fill this part out. So it's thinking about the world around you, your own interests, develop 2 separate ideas. So we're going to kind of brainstorm. So think of world events, that are going on, whether it's, it says world event, but I guess it can be kind of local, or you could even kind of think of the Wisconsin, if you know that there's things going in Wisconsin, or even in the United States. But you can kind of think of something, beyond just what we have a lot of influence on, if that makes any sense. Think about family events, that you might be, a part of, or you might celebrate, and how that could play a role in here. Maybe Christmas is real important to you. Maybe, maybe there's another holiday like Halloween, that you guys really get into. So some kind of a family event, and it could even be like a reunion. It could even be if you are a senior, you could celebrate, your class, and you could make this project, and you could actually use this as part of a bowl that might have candy in it, or something like that, that you could actually have out during your graduation party. That'd be kind of fun. Think about even the Platteville connection, in terms of what symbols, are in Platteville that could tie this piece to this region, of the United States, kind of thing. So if you see this, and you might move, when you get out of here, and you might go to Wyoming, or you might go to New Hampshire, or wherever, and then you might have the big M, that's on there, or Pioneer Pete, you might have him on there, and it just has a reminder and has a connection, to this area that you were a part of. Even personal interests, if none of the top 3 really kind of hit you, I understand. I do want you to come up with something for all of them. Personal interests, whether you're kind of a gamer, whether you're into sports, whether you're into like chess, or something, some kind of an interest that you have, and how you could take that, and you got to think of a symbol, that would kind of relate with that. Okay, next part says develop 2 ideas below based on the information above. After deciding which design you are going to use, answer the question at the bottom of the page. So main design 1, main design 2. So we're trying to work with this idea that designers do. We come up with all these ideas, and you start funneling it down. We're not quite down to that final one. you hopefully have two competing thoughts on how you could do this, and either write out or sketch your design ideas that are on there. Okay. When you start getting into this part, understanding your medium is important. You can't get real extreme detail with this. You got to think of this as like a coloring page. You're going to create these lines that will be black, and then you're going to apply a glaze inside those sections. Okay, so think of it kind of like a coloring page or like a painting that you're trying to do like a paint by number. You don't want those numbers too small because they get really difficult to paint. Okay, so consider that when you are working on this design. Also remember that your bowl, your form, that's on this plaster is a bowl shape, so it is round. So the first thing you might want to do on this is draw a circle that so it represents that shape, and think about how that circle design, how you can play with that. You might have a design all the way on the outside edge, and then you might have something in the center. You can think of radial design. Radial design is where everything kind of comes from that center point, and you could divide up your piece into quadrants, where the thing of like the four seasons, summer, winter, fall, spring. I probably said those back. But you could divide those up and then figure out how each one of those quadrants, would play. Maybe you're really into basketball or something, and you could think of the top teams in a certain division. I'm not a sports person, so it's hard to think about that. Think of gaming. I just had somebody the other day get into Call of Duty, and I think it was like a zombie apocalypse or something, but there were four main categories, or something of that, and you could divide that up. So there's just so many things you could do with this project. So I'm hoping you can really kind of hit that hard. Second part, I just want to kind of look at that. It says, where would you feel in Platteville or at your house that this bowl would best be represented that would complement its artistic purpose, and why? Okay, it kind of gets into the idea of, as a designer, you might think of a room, and then you might want to think of pieces that would fit that room. Okay, versus as an artist, you might create this art piece, and then you want to find a place to put it. So there's a distinction between the two. So maybe that could even kind of guide you a little bit more on deciding between the two designs that you might ultimately want to do. Because this piece you might design would be perfect for your kitchen, or this piece you might design might be perfect, for the bathroom, for whatever reason. So down below, you can kind of read through this a little bit. I'm probably going to be getting rid of that at some point. Otherwise, grading wise, again, 20% of your grade is based on this sheet, because you want to have a good solid idea when you jump into it. Otherwise, a third of your grade, 15 points. The form is correctly made with a hump mold design with the added foot. That's very important. Another third of your grade, design is nicely carved out, no sharp edges, nice deep lines as you work on that. And again, a demonstration will come up for that one. The underglaze is cleanly applied and was thick enough to get a good color. And with that one is, a lot of times you might have to put 2 or 3 coats, of this underglaze on to get that solid white, or get that solid yellow, so you don't have this brush stroke look on there as you kind of work on it. Other than that, jump back up here, just try to get some inspiration, try to get some ideas going, and I'll be around to help you if you have any questions. Otherwise, good luck on the project. Thanks.